Okay, this is the committee meeting on the corporate culture development. Uh, Christine Howard Eshmawi is the nominated head. I nominated her. She's very professional. Jason Wright is also on this committee. In my opinion, I think it would be good to have the person who's leading or at least moderating, because really the heads are moderators. They're not controlling the committee. They're supposed to make sure that ideas are listened to fairly and packaged right. So there's some sort of professional packaging before the ideas go back to Congress. But I've always felt that it would be a good idea to have the rules and the corporate culture committee linked. They're both separate topics, but I keep coming back to bylaws and do you have anybody willing to follow the bylaws? So it's one thing to say, here's the rules and you must. It's a total separate thing to have people actively believe that that's the right way and live it and personify it and really go about it. You know, like the military has the military code of justice, but on top of that, they have esprit de corps. There is a military spirit that people who survive in it and like it, you know, there's a way of doing things that motivates them. That's aligned with, but not the same thing as the military code of laws. And so I'd like to do the same thing here. Professional culture creation is about how do we make Yes California achieve the mission statement already approved by everybody here to be the most professional organization having the conversation about what if California needs to become independent, how would it do it, what were the conditions, and just to make sure the conversation is had in the most professional manner. How do we get and continually improve an organization to be as professional as possible? What are the things we get people to do? How do we talk to them? How do we build that thinking pattern of how this fits together? So I'm going to be quiet for a minute and I'm going to turn it over to Christine and then Jason. How do you feel the corporate culture committee should be? What should be goals? Well, how do you envision it? Christine.
So I want us to work on what we need to do as far as professional actions and how we need to conduct ourselves within the calls and when the COVID situation is alleviated, when we get together in person. Everything needs to be professional. Um, Basic ones, dress, language used, um, different types of situations where, so a lot of times, like in Korean culture, like after a work day, a big team will go and they'll go drinking and they don't get to leave until the boss says it's okay to leave. And they're expected to drink. It's part of their professional culture that something like that happens. So, not necessarily drinking. Obviously, I do not condone drinking. Um, no, no judgment to anybody who does. But I think we do need to start getting into practice for team building and getting into critical thinking exercises as a team to build our professional culture. Jason?
Yeah, what, what you said. um, yeah, I definitely agree that, like, like you said, after COVID, right, whenever that is, some people say April. I think that's way too hopeful. Some people say never. I think that's a little too pessimistic. I hope it's not never. Um, I do believe it will be over sometime, and when it is, we need. I agree. We need to be ready and be able to really, continue to interact as human beings face to face appropriately without it, suddenly changing. As the dynamic does change between video and face to face, but it really shouldn't change too much. And we could really do something to prevent it from being a chaotic change. And Marcus, as far as the military thing that you were talking about, um, there's a thing they call it a healthy sense of structure,
Mm.
and it's not that they want every last and heartbeat structured out, but that there's enough structure to everything that anyone does in a day that you could operate on your own, you could operate in a group, you could operate as a large group under the command of one. Anything goes, anything will work, and it's never going to throw a cog or throw a wrench into the cog. Well, cog into the wrench. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about the preparedness, and I think that's ultimately what's kind of been hit on here, and I totally agree with it.
Yeah. We're going to have the rules and you have to follow those. But I want us to develop exactly where Christine's going with this. How do you build a team? How do you get people used to thinking with each other? How do you get people into this dynamic energy? Because that's the point of what we're doing here, right? This is a place to constantly have discussions about how do we get everyone in California talking about this, period. Promotional ideas, conversation ideas, editorials, or just debating the idea amongst yourselves is the proper way to discuss it. That's fusion, that's cohesion, that's dynamic energy, that's a certain level of comfort and interaction. And the laws are there. So, if somebody does something wrong, we have a way to deal with it. If somebody proposes an idea, we have a way to make sure that they are listened to and they can't be shouted over. And that's really important. But that's not the same thing as, a dynamic energy where you imagine I'm gone and you're gone. And people come in and they just kind of get a vibe from everybody that perfectly sets them up in the right mind frame. That's what I was kind of thinking. Like, if nobody was here and it's 2 years into the future, someone new comes in, that they would just already be acting and talking and thinking the way that we think is best, not because anyone told them, but because there's already a culture that says that. They don't really listen to any other way. It's like you join the military and you go, hey, why don't we just talk about everything and see how people feel? That would never go. It's an order-based organization, right? Like, people are not going to go for that. Even without the rules of you have to follow what the lieutenant says and what the general says. It's I need orders and I need someone above me to tell me what to do type culture. That's what legacy-worthy culture, yeah. So let's keep going. Christine, your vision. How do you feel we should do this? What do you see?
So I know with the rules, we've based it on Robert's Rules of Order. So I think a lot of that is going to influence what we do with the culture. And then just looking up professional boards and things that have worked and been successful in the past. So just doing research. And then also we have to see what works for us, because we can't go by the book for somebody else. We're different people. We all think differently. Everything flows differently. So it's going to be a little bit of an experiment at first until we see what works.
Jason, how do you vision this? Or what do you think the vision, or how do you think it should be?
Well, I mean, I I I haven't really disagreed with anything so far, right? Last week we talked about Christine and I talked about team building exercise, and I've had a little bit of experience with some of that stuff, and we talked about things, useful tools that kind of kind of culturally could be implemented throughout our organization gently, gradually, to the point where everyone just, kind of like what you were saying, it becomes a vibe that no one person is carrying. It's just the energy of the group. Things like conflict resolution, right? How to be able to disagree with one another and still be decent human beings and work together. And how to have a disagreement and work through it and come to a solution, right? I think there's a lot of the United States federal government that could use a refresher course on that. I think the more that we set things up like that, one, the more we're going to stand out as a legitimate thing, right? Here we are able to disagree, work things out, find solutions, and achieve goals, move on to the next problem. That's something that the United States Congress historically has had a very hard time with doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay, what I'm hearing is team building exercises. We should start studying team building exercises. We should figure out which ones of them work, at least for a Zoom virtual group, at least for now. I mean, COVID may end in the next couple months, but we're going to be doing this primarily for a few months on Zoom. So maybe focusing on what team building ideas will translate to this. I think I'm picking that up from Jason, you, and from Christine. And then Jason, I think you're also talking about making sure that we have what I've seen is called productive teams. How do you get a group? How do you build a team or a group of people that's really high performance? So maybe we need to study team building, and how do you have a high performance team, almost like project management type thinking. Christine, then Jason, am I picking up on what you're saying, or am I way off? Tell me, no, I don't think it's that. This is how, please disagree. Please disagree. Please disagree. Please disagree.
No, I think you're nailing it in much more concise terms, because the goal that I gave us was by next Monday for both of us to come up with ideas and things that we think would make the Congress more professional and things that need to be done. So something, Marcus, you've said quite a few times at this point, dress code. Either we are in professional dress, semi-professional, or the uniform, the t-shirt.
Yeah.
So, that's a super basic example. And then, Jason and I were talking about like not eating on calls. It's okay. No rules are in, place yet.
But we need to. Yeah, you're right.
Like no smoking on calls, like no being drunk or, high. Just standard, like, professional workplace practices.
Yeah, I think we should. I've heard no smoking on calls, at least not on camera, right? So if you have to go off camera for a second, nobody knows what you did. Just don't do it on camera. That's at least
Yeah.
Jason, am I nailing
yeah,
this? Am I
no,
not nailing this? Am I way off? Tell me, brother.
it's
Am I way off on
exactly
what you guys?
exactly what Christine said. You're nailing it in a much more concise manner.
Okay, then I think I'm hearing consensus. The Culture Creation Committee still brainstorming, totally, massively. Same thought as Christine about it's going to be a little chaotic and it's going to take a little bit of time for it to all come together, and we're going to have to be a little bit creative. But I think we all agree on the vision, super professional, a spirit, and I think we're agreeing that we could at least start by looking into high productive team behavior, a group that's like project management. You're going to disagree, but how do you get the project done? And how do you do that where you recognize the differences, but you still are constantly moving forward? And then team building, classic team building exercises. And I think the thing, we need to research those and figure out what can apply to a virtual group. I do agree with Christine. I think that we will need to be prepared for when COVID is, but I could be way wrong, but I think that's at least 3 months out. I think we got another 3 months of we're going to be virtual, and whatever we build needs to be thinking virtual. And then we'll have to come up with a different standard for when it's physical. That could be me. Don't agree.
I think it's going to be longer than that, just because of we had so many vaccines that got destroyed because they were temperature sensitive. Now we're getting the new vaccines. Some of the vaccines won't protect against some strains, but some will. And then we have to rely on the US buying enough vaccines to cover everybody with the correct strains. And then the thing is, once you have the vaccines, you are still a carrier. So they still recommend you do not congregate in groups, because say someone who didn't get vaccinated is there and you're live and you've given it to them.
Jason?
Yeah, no, my studies in biology and viral pathology and epidemiology, pandemiology, right? Free studies. I don't hold any sort of degree in any of it, but this is stuff that I have always been fascinated by and have known a lot about for many years now. And that's why I'm fairly certain that, like, even the projections of by this summer, everyone could be, inoculated against the coronavirus and be safe and yada yada. I'm like, no, 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 no. Had the appropriate measures been taken right off the bat from the very get-go, it's like the one thing that, I praised Gavin Newsom for closing California's borders.
Yeah, that was good leadership on his part.
The federal government then overrode him and said, that's unconstitutional, you can't do this, yada, yada. Even though legally, during a time of emergency like this, it was actually perfectly legal and well within established protocols to lock down the borders. And there were other states that tried to follow suit and then quickly decided not to, having seen big, powerful Gavin Newsom of California get shot down in flames by the Fed.
But New York got closed down. No one was allowed in or out for a time period as well, after Newsom.
Yeah, the Isle of Manhattan was totally locked down, from what I remember, for a short period because they were like going. That was when the mass grave thing started up, which, like, wow, it ever hit the point of mass grave. That says
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry, I could go on all day. I just think it's going to be around for a long time.
And then also after COVID, there will be the next virus, because everything is speeding up with how often these are popping up, because we had SARS, we had MRSA, swine flu, avian flu, Ebola. So expect something within 2-3 years after this to pop up and be the next thing. So we need to have our digital and Zoom interface procedures locked down.
There you go. So we agree. We're going to focus on digital interface first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think you're both saying probably going to be that way at least for the next 3 to 5 months, minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Okay. So that's great. We're going to focus on virtual for the next 3 to 5 months. And we're going to focus on team building. Anything from the team building universe, there's a ton. The great news is there's a ton of research, right? And it's a lot is free, and a lot of it's boiled down, and a lot of it's in quick videos. Team building and professional high production teams that can disagree but still get stuff done.
Yeah.
So, am I saying anything y'all are going, no, that's not what I said. This guy's way off.
No.
Okay. Whew. Okay. Well, I am ready to be impressed with the new mission statement. Can we don't have to talk about that if you don't want to. Do you guys want to talk about that? We don't have to.
No, I'm fine with talking about it, Jason.
Yeah, totally. I have been praising it to Marcus the last few times that we've talked, and have told him nothing other than that he is going to love how nice and short and easy it's going to be. But yeah, I totally left it up to you because I'd rather you be the one. I mean, really, like, we both kind of put our heads together, but it was all under your lead, and I personally feel that you definitely were the the commander on that boat.
Well, it was definitely your idea for the wording. So team effort.
Well, should we post it in chat or is it?
Yeah, I can post it in chat, and then
Would you
let
read
me
it
just
too?
clean it up real quick because it has WhatsApp timestamps.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, that's another thing is the ability to really use multiple different platforms and like cross-platform at the same time. While doing this Zoom meeting, we were using the WhatsApp, and yeah,
Yeah.
like stuff like this. If everyone is operating on that level, yeah.
Okay. I'm impressed. Who wants to read it? Just because it's going to be on record and they can't see the chat. But I think Christine, maybe.
Okay. So originally, our original first bullet point was to raise awareness among all Californians, or at least the 1/3 who are aware of Cal Exit, that it is unreasonable to not have this discussion about what if California has to go it alone by itself if the USA becomes more unstable. That was the first bullet point originally. What we came up with was, we are an organization that wants to be recognized as the forefront leaders of the Cal Exit movement. Second bullet point, to raise the profile of California as a nation to Californians, Americans, and the entire world. We changed it to, our aims are to raise awareness among Californians that it is reasonable to discuss independence. And then the third original bullet point was to be the best recognized and most honest, trustworthy Cal Exit organization to Californians who feel California already acts like a nation and Americans who are willing to vote us out. Our third point was, our further goal is to raise the status of California as a nation to Americans and the rest of the world. So one of the things that we worked on, and this was Jason's idea, was to gradually make our scope bigger and bigger through the bullet points, instead of just being like, wham, here's everything, and then here's some little side thoughts. So keeping it concise, but then gradually making it a broader statement is what we did. So
Jason, read the 3 final bullets as one piece. We heard from Christine what it was and what it is, and a discussion of what it looks like. Do me a favor, just read the final product all the way through. In Shakespeare. Yes.
We are an organization that wants to be recognized as the forefront leaders of the Cal Exit movement. Our aims are to raise awareness among Californians that it is reasonable to discuss independence. Our further goal is to raise the status of California as a nation to Americans and the rest of the world.
That's good. That's really good. Please present that Sunday during Congress. I think that's really good. That's good. And I have to say, because people are watching this video, and these first culture committee videos are key because they're establishing what our committees look like. This is how we get ahead. right? I wasn't even at this meeting. The two of you met, you had an idea of where we were going roughly, and you just took it to the next step further. If we had different meetings with people who are constantly doing this, wow. I mean, just picture that. That was the two of you in a meeting. Imagine if there's other three people working on something and another five working on something and another three. I mean, you get this thing up from 43 to 100 or more, and we have high production groups. I mean, it's just going to be, I'm not exaggerating. This is winning. People go off, they make a better product and bring it back to the Congress. And they do it all on their own because they care and they do a professional, awesome job, and then Congress approves it. This is the goal. I want to have stuff like this going on all the time. And that's why I went with a big group, because life happens. Life happens. Life happened to you, Jason. Life happens to you, Christine. Life happens to me. But with a big group and the right culture, right? Because you two were both in the right mindset, right? What if one of you showed up going, I just want to argue, or I don't really know why we're here, or I'm not motivated to do anything? Look at what you did. Both of you came together. You were on the same page. You were the same thing. I'm sure you disagreed and argued somewhat, but it came to a better product because both of you wanted the same thing. And you were recognizing each other's intelligence and being able to at least push back, but productively. So that's already kind of the culture coming together. And this is already proof of concept. So I like to take moments to showcase the successes and explain it to people so I can go more of that. See what they did? Do that again. Do that. It's harder to explain people what we're looking for, something like this, rather than when it happens and go, see that thing? That's called winning. We keep doing stuff like that. And then keep pointing it out. People seem to get that and jump in. Okay. Christine, thoughts, feelings, then Jason?
I'm happy with what we put together. When it goes to the vote on Sunday, we'll see what everybody else thinks. But I think if this is not what people want, we're at least in the right direction.
Yeah. And it looks professional. This is the direction we want to go. We took the sloppy statement that I put together that I was able to get Congress to approve because it reflected the will of everybody, which is great. That's democracy. Now we have to make it look good, right? So you guys, we went through the democratic process, and then you two applied the sandstone and grilled it, grinded it down until it was the perfect essence. Jason, thoughts, feelings?
Yeah, I'd like to point out for anyone who watches this video later that part of the purpose for approving something that we felt was on point, maybe not 100% refined, but a good starting place, was because of the necessity for having something, right? We had to have something to start with. And Marcus's original statement gave us a whole lot of something. All we had to do was just kind of, heat that metal up and start pounding it out on the anvil and, make it nice and straight.
I am not good at polished wording. I'm not. So that's why I'm really impressed with this work.
Yeah.
Jason?
Well, and, the stuff that we approve in those meetings, under, at least during the beginning, under this phase, it's important for everyone involved to come into the committees and partake and help refine, right? Classic thing that they show in movies is like fantasy movies with dwarves forging their amazing dwarven stuff. There's a whole team of them. One person specializes in just keeping that fire at the perfect temperature. Another specializes in making sure that the molten metal is, properly alloyed. And then another comes in for the handling to pour it just right. And then a whole team of them take turns whacking their hammers in unison in perfect timing so it sounds like a machine gun. It's all of these things that it takes to get that masterful build. And what we do in these committees is that epic dwarven master working. Sorry, I'm a fantasy nerd, so
I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that Shakespeare. See how it sounded so poetic and I was vision. I can't do that. The research, the data, sure. Polishing it, making it professional. That's why we really need a team. Like I know what I want, but it's hard to do it. Yeah. See, dude, you just turned on the Shakespeare right there. I can't do that. Like everybody, did y'all see that? That he didn't prep that. That's just Jason. That just came out of nowhere. Like he can do that. I can't do that. So jealousy, jealous, jelly. Okay, a couple last notes. I've nominated as president Christine as head of the rules committee and the culture creation committee. I think that's a good idea. If anybody watching this in the board, I think you should back that. You don't have to, it's up to the Congress. But I think it's important to have somebody who's on both, helping to weld them together. They're two separate things, have to, and I believe in it myself. But I think having one person who's kind of in charge of both, or at least moderating that discussion, which is the role of the committee heads, would be good. So I would encourage everybody to follow my direction on this. You do not have to, but that's the reason why I suggested. Additionally, I'm going to start implementing training videos every single week as homework on how to think about publicity and marketing. So the whole point of this group is to raise the profile of this discussion and get Californians talking. So I wanted to have training videos like every week, 5-10 minutes on how do you persuade people. Dale, How to Win Friends. And what's the name of that book, Christine? Carnegie, yeah, that. So how do you talk to people? How do you influence people? How do people think? So we're always thinking, like every week we're doing a little bit of training on marketing. No, it's not the same thing as a business degree, but every week. And I thought that might be part of the culture creation, is that every week we're talking about marketing and how to influence minds. So we're learning and we're constantly thinking about how we need to constantly learn. Culture committee, does that seem like a good idea? Does that seem any reason to think that's a bad idea?
No, I don't think it's a bad idea. I do think that as far as training videos, that should be open to the whole Congress, because some people are going to have ideas for, oh, this area of marketing, I know a video, so let me put this forward. Or, oh, I know something for board creation or teamwork. So I don't think it should just be one committee. I think it should be open to everybody to submit ideas for the homework.
Yeah, Jason?
Yeah, I agree with that. I do like your idea of providing homework to stimulate the creative marketing approach part of our brains. But yes, I do also very much agree with Christine, because I have some things that I like to post here and there, and I'm sure everyone sees it in the WhatsApp chats and whatnot. But little fun tidbits of, hey, here's this video of this person saying some things, and they say a whole lot of things, but right here at this point, at 3 minutes and 22 seconds in, for a random number, they say this thing, which highlights our point and can be used to, make this sort of a statement and bring this sort of a feel, right? It's partly marketing, partly, fun little tidbit for a messaging thing. And it's also partly just, like, yeah, it's not mandatory, it's not homework per se, but usually if I give a nice little description like that, people will at least go to the 3 minute 22 second mark, and So yeah, if everyone can do that, that'd be awesome, because it helps to, there are things you're gonna see that I'm not gonna get. Like my YouTube markets to me a whole lot of other YouTube video gamers because I'm a YouTube video game player. But you know, there's a whole lot of stuff you're probably getting in your feed that I'm not. And same with Christine. Like every single one of us, we get personalized kind of marketing through the Google AI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get a bunch of parenting stuff, so I don't think you guys want that right now.
Not unless it talks about talking to your baby is some way you can talk to adults, and we're already programmed to respond to that, which I've heard there's a lot to that, because you talk to children a certain way when you grow up, you're still programmed to respond. So if you can figure out those things, it's an old psychology thing, like that no one ever tells you that the way mommy and daddy talk to you, you turn off at some point. So you grow up as an adult still going, hmm, somebody talked down, somebody had a wrong voice, somebody says, listen here, or listen, and you go, ah. So it's everything. I just want to have us constantly thinking about marketing and reaching out and how to influence people every single week. And you're right, we should get the videos from everybody. And I think we all agree on that. And I think we all agree on dress code, no smoking, and no drinking, and no eating on the video. And if you can, certain people have certain life conditions, totally understand. And I also have to get the Yes California shirts out to everybody. So provided all that. So everyone agreed with that? Anyone opposed? Okay. Christine, then Jason, last comments, unless there's some big issue. I think we've settled a lot so far. I'd like to end the meeting and turn it over to judicial. Christine, last comments or thoughts?
So as far as goals for next Monday, so still wanting to work on ideas for professionalism, but you want us to also work on coming up with homework ideas and looking up into team building, high performance teams, project management, and military spirit for ideas, correct?
Yeah, how do we build a spirit that is, I think Jason was hitting on it. We're going to disagree, but there are teams that have people who disagree with each other, and it's all constructive and it all goes to the project getting done.
Mhm.
So a culture that does that, and then also just team building, plain old team building. What ideas can we grab and are applicable for Zoom? Not all are going to be, but some certainly are. So let's start doing team building. We can pull out the best ideas that apply, and then let's start looking at how do corporations, how do businesses where, you get a bunch of smart people in the room and they don't all have the same idea. There are companies that are highly successful and nonprofits because they're able to get those people to focus on an issue without telling people, oh, you don't get to speak your piece. Like everybody speaks their piece, but somehow it ends up productive and getting things accomplished. That's what we want. That's
Okay.
the culture we're trying to do. What are those people and those companies and those nonprofits and governments doing? And how do we get that here? And then also, we just need to start taking team building exercises and doing them each week. So each week, maybe we have a team building exercise and we have a video, on persuasion.
Okay.
Jason, thoughts, feelings, disagreements?
No disagreements. I think that we, as a committee, I think that we are mandated on Sunday to present this to the board, to the Cal Exit Congress, the refined mission statement
Yeah.
for approval or denial or further committee inquiry.
Mhm.
I think it may end up being one of our first votes that we have using the new site.
I'm impressed. I mean, I'm definitely going to say I think we should do it. It's up to the Congress, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you read that message there?
Yes, I did. So,
Let's just maybe sit tight for a minute and
yeah.
make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to end this recording, but we're still here, and I'll start a new recording.